to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Could I get a motion to amend the agenda to add our budget on here? We need to have a budget discussion, okay?
I will move that the agenda be amended to include after number 2, budget.
I second that if that's needed.
And all in favor? Any opposed? Okay, alrighty. And petitions from the public?
Anything, Tim? Last month, I presented to you guys bank statements and minutes from last year's meetings and evidence that Calumet Florida had been overpaid $1,000. Leo, can you tell me anything about it? Did you find anything about it, or did you just?
So Joe is looking into that, and he's giving me some feedback, but we're not finished looking at it yet. So that's where that stands, and when he gets back, we'll come back to it, but we are looking at it.
Fair enough, fair enough. Another thing, and I'm not real happy about it, but this is the Downtown Development Association. When new businesses come in, you guys should be fostering those new businesses. I don't think anybody here would disagree with that. That's why I'm a little disappointed. A little disappointed in Main Street, and definitely disappointed in the DDA. Got 2 council members on here, so this statement really isn't for you guys. The statement's for the rest of you. Not one of you has stood up, come to a single meeting, and said anything for the Zen Garden. Zen Garden set to close in 2 days because of inaction by our council. Flat out inaction. You know, members have used their personal biases against marijuana to not allow this ordinance to go through. It's a real simple ordinance. Nagani wrote their own ordinance in 5 days. All the excuses thrown around here are crazy. Not one of you stopped in and offered any kind of support at all for a new business. Somebody that brings people from all over the Keweenaw into our community. Shame on you all.
Just to clarify, I did stop when you talked.
Oh, whatever, Verge.
Okay, well,
We know how you feel about marijuana. Give it a break.
Okay.
That's it. Okay. And do you have anything?
Clarifying.
Okay. All right.
I still have this correct here. I got all of that. That's not separated.
So let's move on to our minutes. I know we didn't get these. We can open them, so if everybody wants to take a second to review, just quickly. And
How many pages are supposed to be with this thing?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Okay, because all I do is 2, and it's many of the same thing. I only got these 2.
I'm not sure if we right now. Sure, we're not totally confused. Then we can be.
I have that.
So let's just look at the minutes.
Oh, if you're including these things, that's fine.
Oh, yeah, I counted the whole thing.
That's okay, if she's including the.
I put every single page.
Okay.
Was that? Okay, she got it. Yep. Okay. So just to the minutes. Okay, so this is for November 7th, too, folks. This is not for last week's meeting, for the training meeting. Any additions or questions regarding the minutes? The only thing, that I do see that we need to do for the November 7th meeting was, I did not have us do a roll call vote to pay to approve the bills, and we should have done that, so that I did incorrectly, so we should probably just go through and vote on that again. Do we want to pick that up under bills, or should we just do it here? We'll pick it up under bills, and we'll get that corrected, because that is not how we're supposed to do it. Okay?
We have no November on payroll?
So these would be the bills, so we would have approved these these should be the bills, that we would have approved at the November.
This is October, which would be approved in November. This
Oh, I don't have
November
no- I don't
approved to
have
be-
no November.
Yeah, I
That's
was
what
gonna
it
say,
is.
that's what we should have,
Yeah.
that's,
Okay,
yeah,
I was gonna say we did
Got
that
it.
already.
yeah, that's
I
what
just
we need
didn't have
to,
this
we need to
one.
do the roll call vote on this is what we'll approve. Potentially. Okay. So we will,
I will move that we accept the minutes as presented.
and we'll re-vote on the bills. Do I have a
Yes.
second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so moving on to the budget is the next thing. So we need to approve our budget for it. So right now we are in our, the 2018 fiscal year, which sounds crazy, but fiscal year ends, the fiscal year is the year the budget ends in, which is, our budget ends in February. The end of February starts in March. So what we're looking at here is budget 2019, which seems strange, but that is actually what we're looking at. We had a couple, we have some, you'll notice some major adjustments in revenue. We apparently overbilled the county $4,000 in the 2017 fiscal year.
I believe it was the 2016 fiscal year.
Oh, okay, so we're seeing that reflected in 2017. So then we had, of course, we actually would have had 4,000 less in income, plus we owed that money. So that's where you see 48,000. If you're looking under actual prior year 2017, you'll see our total revenues. And then we had a major adjustment in our income due to Louis, the Louis building being raised. That was apparently, that's where we're valued at now. So we should be anticipating in future years our budget revenues of about 54,000, somewhere around there. So you can see here we're at 53,320. So
why isn't 2018 addressed enough?
I ran out of time.
Oh, so
I'll
there
have it
is a
next
column?
month.
There should
Yeah,
be a
there will be
column.
a 2018. It's only through November,
I got you.
and I'll be honest, I ran out of time.
Okay,
So
because
then
I just.
I'll have it in there next month.
So yeah, so that does look a little strange. But so we're gonna have to make some adjustments because we don't have 67,000 or 74,000 coming in. We're gonna have 52 or 54,000. So that's, disappointing, but okay. And then if we want to move through expenditures, so we set aside a little bit for printing and publishing supplies, and our grants, we've kept the 10,000 there for grants. And something just in general I want to let everybody know is that this is a budget, so a budget can change. We are not absolutely set in stone on this. Dave and I worked through this, and we kept 10,000 for the grants. Potentially that could have been 20, we could have had the 10 that we said we could spend from last year and this year, but it just doesn't seem like we're probably gonna have that many applicants that are really eligible. So we stuck with 10. If we need to adjust that number, we can do that. Oh, Lord. And street sweeping, we've allotted 3,000 this year for street sweeping. That was a big complaint we had from people, is that they wanted the street swept downtown more frequently. And that is something we typically split with the village, is street sweeping. When it's done in the whole community, we pay for about half of that. But we allotted some more money so we could maybe sweep streets just in the downtown district a couple more times. Because that stamp sand just is, you know, it makes things look messy, and so we've allotted a little more money there. You'll see 20,000 in the line item for building maintenance stabilization. We pledged 20,000 to the Bring Back Calumet effort. Is that last winter, 2 years ago already? So we don't think that we're actually going to spend that money this year. That group had written some grant applications, and we weren't successful in those. So had those been successful, this money would have been spent, but there might be another way that we want to, there might be some other project that comes up that we can utilize it for. So we've left it there, just earmarked, since we did pledge that money.
Can I ask you a question? If it was approved 2 years ago, have you spent any of the money?
Yeah, and I was looking at that.
Because 20 was.
Right.
And so we got, what, 33,000 for Portland, and we were supposed to pay about 10% of that, so I need to verify that we have done that, in which case we can amend this down to like 7,000.
So in 2 years, you've only spent that little,
Yes.
that little bit?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, because that's the
That was
project,
pretty, yeah.
that's the project we have.
Right.
Okay, so,
Actually, I think the next line is wrong.
Yes, I was
It should
gonna
be
say-
7,500.
right, that should
Yeah,
not be
sorry,
2,500, that should be.
Planters?
So it's planters, but we were looking at approving the hanging basket project. They did end up getting it back from Dave Slater. And he actually came in,
This one here.
you know, he would build the brackets for us that would go on the posts at the intersections of Oak, Elm, this side of Pine, and on 5th Street and 6th Street is different. I think we have some on 5th Street at the intersection of Scott, but I think not on 6th Street in Scott, you know what I mean? But anyway, Dave Slade gave us a quote of $75 for 14-inch baskets and $85 for the 18-inch baskets. Anyway, super reasonable. They'll be powder coated, stainless steel fasteners, and he's going to build us a nice watering wagon. And he gave us a quote of $250 for that. So we'll be looking for volunteers, and I'm working with Keith Anderson on some things as far as our volunteers are concerned. But anyway, so for about $7,500 of initial investment, we'd be able to have beautiful hanging baskets this year out, and I'll work with Tony Sleeman from Sleeman's. He would be doing all the growing for us, and he'll plant them out, and he'll bring them up when we want them. So we don't have to take control of them when it's too cold or nasty. He will take care of them for us, and they will be awesome, I think. And then the annual investment on that. So this year with those brackets, it's $7,500, but next year you'd be looking at I figure about so about $2,800. And it might come in less than that actually, just because the way they do it, the basket that they use, you buy it this year, but it should last 2 or 3 years. So you're not going to pay for the basket, which is like $10 or $20 a basket. So that number would come under that. But anyway, so $7,500 for planters. So that's what the planters
Can I
are.
ask you a question? Is the planter going to stay there all winter?
The bracket.
Just the bracket?
Yes.
The reason I say that, I was in Marquette last weekend, and they have their planters still up, and they have green.
I
with a big
know.
red bow, and it looks
Oh,
really
just
nice.
That's
It
possibility.
looks
So-
really, really nice.
So anyway, that's something,
You can take them down after Christmas.
well, I think it'd be a lot of work to take down.
I mean, they-
Oh, the greens, you mean?
Well, just,
Well, it's actually a bracket that comes off the post, and it has a metal basket.
Plastic flowers?
no,
No.
the real greenery.
No, she's putting greenery in it.
No, I just commented,
Anyway,
there's
that's-
greenery with a bow, and it looks nice.
That's something that I think our design committee would be happy, from Main Street, would be happy to work on some ideas and maybe coming up with some quotes through Amy Knight. She has a supplier for greens and stuff, and
You could go in the woods and cut the darn.
well, that's a project. I don't know,
That
that's
sounds like fun to me.
that's something that, Main Street could, or somebody could figure out to get the volunteers together. But anyway, let's move through this budget, finish moving through here. Okay, We have $5,000 set aside for,
And I'm gonna ask that we amend that. 18 is the year of our audit, and whereas 19 is a review, so I think that number should be 2,500.
okay,
Yeah.
Or what?
The
So we have to-
administration professional services
Okay, and under which column?
for budget 2019, the very last
How
column.
come we don't have 18?
I didn't have time.
Oh.
I
To
just
get the
didn't have
numbers.
time yesterday.
So did we have an audit this year?
We had a review. We had a
Oh, it
review.
says Jackie Alto audit. It
Right,
says
yeah,
on
but
there.
it's really a review. Every other year, we have an audit.
Okay, so it's really not an
Every
audit.
other
It's a
year,
review.
it's a review.
That's right. So it should be 25.
Yeah, I think it should be 2,500.
okay, and then DDA plan, our plan revision, so did that end up in the wrong column there, Dave?
Yes, it should be.
So the 2,000, we should have 2,000, not 0 there.
Sorry.
And not
You
in
know-
that 17.
Correct, it should be under the 2019 column. So I think we discussed this at our last meeting too, when Scott McGinnis was here for that training. We do need to revise our plan and get it amended, it's gonna cost us a little bit, so we're just putting in the budget to make sure that we can get that done this year and be up to date, so the county can't dissolve us. Okay, parking 7,200,
No.
that's standard.
No, that's not necessarily standard, I mean, it has been for many years. I really and truly, I don't know why, we really should study how much parking is happening downtown, how much are we paying per meter, and why is it, I mean, we don't have any, they're not enforcing any, they don't have something.
So,
Right, but we still do bring in about $4,000 from the meters.
But the thing is, you know, that when this $7,200 was set, it was set at a time, that arbitrary number was was set at the time when the meter collections were at the highest, and not meters, I might say, but fines. And that was when we had a lot of outrage from the downtown businesses because they had hired somebody that was going around and giving an extraordinary amount of tickets. And so they said that that's what we have to, that's what we have to have in order to, so if you guys don't want to give tickets, then you have to pay this much. And this was originally 15 minutes of free parking.
so, okay, so here's what I'm thinking on this. So, you know, like Scott McGinnis said at our training, our DDA does account for this huge portion of the village.
Mhm.
So, I'm with you, I don't agree with this money for park, I don't agree with that. What I do agree with is I think our village has a budget that, and costs that we need, I think we need to try and be as supportive as we can. And I don't agree with specifically how this is being allotted. And I think that we need to, in this next year, one of the things we really need to do is try and work on some different things for parking, like, okay, these meters they can't, I know we're bringing in $4,000 from them, but I don't think that it's the wisest thing for our downtown to have these meters, because people feel kind of, they don't like to pay a meter. I know other communities like Marquette are putting meters back in,
Because they
and,
have a parking, because it's traffic.
right, which is an issue we don't have at this point.
Right.
So I think that we might need to look at some other things, I think that's something this group needs to do, but for the purposes of just supporting the village, I think.
Because one thing is, a cop told me is these meters aren't legal to enforce. None of them are accurate.
Right.
So the village can't legally write
Right.
a ticket.
So I-
Because we would get in trouble.
Right.
Which we don't.
So I totally I agree with you guys. I don't think that, I agree.
Well, I don't mind giving the
But
village money.
exactly.
We can't hire, we don't need to get more legal trouble than,
No.
Can I make
So-
a suggestion though, that,
they complain. You work downtown, there was people threatening to call lawyers, all kinds of crap.
I say get rid of them, but then I'm only one voice.
well, can I make a suggestion that, because this is in our budget, and the DDA is supposed to be spending money in the DDA district, this money goes into the general fund, it just gets, and we don't know where it's going. And I think perhaps our group should have an oversight of where that particular money goes into, you know, projects in the village, in the DDA district perhaps. Maybe it can go through for enforcement or something, you know, of codes or something. I don't know, I mean, You know, I'm not sure I agree with the, it just goes into the general fund, because that isn't necessarily spent from the DDA district.
So why don't you run your street fund then?
Yeah, I mean, you could make it go straight to major street fund.
That would
Okay,
be the
no,
main.
let's do that then, because all the major streets pretty much in the DDA district.
No.
See, that's the-
They're not evenly divided between.
It's supposed to be spent in the DDA district by law, I believe.
And again, I mean, if it were to go to major streets, I mean, it is used for hauling snow, which does not occur in the residential neighborhoods. And
Major streets, out of major streets of Holland.
Well, again, the only place where we routinely haul
Snow is
snow
in our commercial
right,
district.
is in the DDA district. We don't do it in the residential.
Okay,
district.
so should we earmark this money instead of for parking, should we earmark it for snow hauling or something?
I guess, I mean, is there
I mean,
another
that-
space where we do snow and?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah,
So I mean,
we could.
Is it
Or we just
something
combine
else?
it, do we just combine it?
well, I don't know if I'd combine it, I would keep that, because that's something that's being taken out every year, right, from the DDA for parking.
So
I
leave
think
it as an
should-
item, but we don't, do you
Well,
want
I
to,
think-
you just want to dictate where it goes?
I would say that it should be spent in the DDA district.
Dave, any ideas other, how we could make that happen?
I have an idea. Our street guy, Steve Kello, said that years ago, when they put those light poles up, they had to buy a skid steer because their pickup truck does not fit on.
Right.
And that thing is on its last legs. I mean, he said it's gonna die at any time. You know, and it's the only place it's used. It's
So
not
that
used.
money could
So-
go to a fund
So it
for
could
that.
go, it could go to equipment fund because he needs a specialized piece of equipment to plow the downtown.
As
area.
long as it's in the
Does it-
downtown.
It
Right,
is.
it's only, it's
You know, that
It's
road-
supposed to be
it's
working.
fees.
I know, but
So let's, they basically
Right.
have to.
He's the only
Is
guy.
that,
that-
you know, is that?
Is that something that
would be another item? on
Or is that just
Well, that's a
issue?
problem. Could that be used for that? Because, you know, that way you know where it's going, where it is.
You know, my problem.
Because I agree with you on this parking thing.
Then do we set aside a separate bank account for it? I mean, I have to think about the
I don't know.
ramifications of it.
So we need to, it sounds like there's a little more to this than just,
Well, you could take that money and get something, because what's gonna happen is this thing's gonna die, and then the downtown district's gonna be in serious trouble, because there's no way to plow it because of the light poles.
okay, so let's figure out a way to
What
move
about
forward
just like
today.
the equipment budget or something?
Yeah, I mean, you can call it whatever you want.
You know, and again, I think about it because somehow you have to segregate these funds so that they don't get spent for other things. So does that entail then setting up a separate bank account, you know, where these funds get deposited, you know, so that they aren't used for something else. So I have to look.
Well, right now, parking goes in general, and you don't know where it goes, so I mean.
Right, that's what
you
he's
know,
saying.
like
Right,
others
right,
say.
But yeah, we were saying.
To rectify the
we would
issue.
We would
Right.
want this used for something special. To do that, you have to segregate the money.
Right.
So is that something that is possible and will not cause
Yeah,
extreme headache?
Well, that's what I need to find out, figure out.
Okay, so one way or another, we're gonna make sure that that money, we know that that money is going into the DDA district.
Because you know that way.
So I'm gonna make a note of this right now in my thing, so we can revisit it, at our next meeting and start to call. Okay, Dave,
You know, the one thing I don't see on here, and I'm gonna be a proponent of, is one of the DDA's responsibility, according to their handout you gave me, is code enforcement. We're looking at that with the village, you know, and the
What's
DDA.
DDA?
Well, because that's one of their responsibilities, according to all the information that they've given out.
But it isn't the village's responsibility?
The only thing that scares me with that is Scott says it wouldn't work with a police officer.
So, Scott didn't exactly say that,
Pretty much, he said
But we can
they don't
use-
have time to.
Well, and that's,
Well, that's
that's a
what the
different
different-
issue.
yeah.
Who's gonna do it and how.
Right.
you just have to figure out how much time you want to spend towards it. There might be, you know, I mean, you don't know. I mean, you gotta start somewhere, you
Because
can't
we
just
see
say
our
no.
police officers tied up in court all the time dealing with
So-
ordinance, and then they're moving down around.
We don't, he wouldn't be going to court because we're gonna change it to municipal, civil fines, then you don't go to court.
No.
Then you don't have to go to court.
The one is in court for the regular part, housing and field.
Virgin Rick, I hate to interrupt you guys, but here's
It can be done.
Laura, we need to move on, but one thing I can tell you this, that Keith actually spoke with Scott McGinnis, and I've spoken with Keith myself, our plan does not allow for that right now. So I don't disagree with you, I don't disagree, I agree that we need ordinance enforcement, and I agree that maybe as a downtown development authority, we should be supporting another police officer. I don't necessarily have a problem with those things, but it's not in our plan, so we need to.
It kinda is, here's the plan right here.
Well, here's code enforcement, but
It says
there's
village
definitely, my conversation with Keith was he's not comfortable stating that any officer he's hired full-time is gonna be able to spend any specific amount of time in any time frame working on code enforcement. He can't guarantee that, and he just feels, and I agree with him, that he thinks he needs another full-time officer, and if that's the case, we don't need that person spending time on enforcement. They just need to be doing,
So how much does a police officer cost? Can we?
Depends on, a chief is gonna be obviously more than,
and I think,
you need to go and look.
so this is a whole nother discussion for another time, I think.
Mhm.
But we are gonna work with Scott McGinnis, and I have a doodle poll that's coming to you. It wasn't sent.
A what?
It's a poll that you fill out and you tell us when you're available, and we're gonna have a meeting with Scott McGinnis, Jeff Ratcliffe, and the rest of the Bring Back Calumet people on code, trying to do some stuff for code enforcement. So that's another conversation, and something that we do need to, as a group, we have some, I think we need, in that planning process, we're gonna have to prioritize some things we want work done. And I think that's where we have this discussion.
So we're going to get notified before this group gets, so we can participate?
Correct.
But the bottom line is we have to do something that's.
Yes,
How it's
absolutely.
accomplished,
Right,
that's
right.
the key is how we do it.
Okay, so I put in my notes that Dave will follow up on segregating those funds for the parking of $7,200 to make sure they're spent in the DDA district. Next line item, we have $1,500. Main Street developed a nice brochure for I actually didn't bring any with me, I think I might have some in my truck, but a nice fold-out map brochure. It's Calumet Village and some of the township actually is included. We want to print another 5,000 copies. We thought that'd be a great way for the DDA to, help with promotion stuff for our downtown. So it was something I thought a relatively low-cost item that the DDA could pay for.
Public improvements.
Slash promotion, slash brochures. And they're about, I think it might be 1,600 or something for the 5,000 copies. And just so 5,000 sounds like a lot, but just for an idea, the national park prints like 35,000 a year. So it kind of gives you an idea that 5,000 is like, it's not nothing, but it's, ideally we print, 15,000 or 20,000 a year. And anyway, if the DDA pays for them, Main Street will probably have some more printed, and we will, I'll arrange that they get mailed out to, they stay some locally, but we like to send a lot out to our visitor centers, and we arrange for getting them there, and you have to have paperwork, and anyway. But we get them in the, the visitor centers, like when you go to the bridge, or as you come in from Wisconsin, so that people can pick those items up. And then, of course, they're in the visitor center here by the light.
Does Main Street have to pay for a membership in the visitor center?
No, they have not. They have not asked us for that. But anyway, so that's what that money's for. Insurance, that's for insurance on our buildings, $450.
Can I ask you a question about that?
Sure.
Of all the packets that you gave me, we have that easement on the old Parkside Evergreen.
Yeah.
And one of the requirements is that they provide us with a copy of insurance.
Oh,
Because we
yeah.
have so much money. Do we have a copy of said insurance saying that they're having insurance on that?
They have never
Follow me.
followed that. We have tried to take them,
Mhm.
this is the,
It's
during
a
the whole
cluster.
years.
It's
We've
not.
tried to get them to comply, and they haven't. And we've taken it all the way to court. The court has said you can't be bothering them. Basically, so courts are not, it's not friendly with them. And even though,
Did you take the stuff out and put it, give it to the park until they become responsible?
I
Because,
don't park to take it.
well, I don't know, it just seems like we got a lot of money in this.
No, it's If we can get it, somebody to take a building.
Yeah, but, in the meantime, you might lose everything. That's the only concern.
That is scary. So, and that's, again, something I think we need to do somewhat of a planning session. And I think we probably need to break people out into like, all right, you two are gonna work on that easement, you're gonna go through it with Jim Tershaw, whoever, you two are gonna work, I mean, because we have a lot of these different things that we need to evaluate, and I think we need to try and split the workload up a little bit and get some information, then we can come back together as a group and, you know, discuss some options. But these are all things that,
Well, it's just
parking is
you don't
something that
wanna
needs
lose
to be,
money.
oh, I totally agree, and some things just need to be straightened out, and this is what our plan is moving forward and following up, so.
I say the DDA has been, you know, diligent in trying to, you know, connect with the people all through the years, and it's just been difficult.
Right, so it's just something, you know, we also need to work on our rules of procedure. We need some things put together. So for our next session, I think that would be a good, you know, that'll be January, start of the year. It's always a good time to start, you know, getting our house in order. So for our next meeting, plan on that we might have some homework.
So we have a second easement too on the Calumet Shooties.
That's
But I don't
correct.
see a cottages.
I don't have it.
Village. Well, village, but it's not the DDA.
Oh,
Okay, because I
so
was told it was the DDA, so.
No,
Okay,
that's
I've never seen it, so that's what I'm asking.
Okay, so next two items here, egg mix block and cane rubber. So there's not any money allotted in the budget for them, but I did want to explain this to you folks because when I saw it, if you look in that 2017 column,
It's disgraceful.
I was kind of like, what the heck is this mean? So, and Dave might have to correct me here because I'm just learning about this. So you have a value on your books of like a piece of property that it's worth so much.
Well, how much you've spent,
How much you've spent, so that the
book value.
book value, so that, like they said,
$91,000?
and that's
How
how
much
much,
that was spent on it.
and now all of that money
No,
is
I know, by the
We
car.
were-
But still, it's,
yes.
oh
So,
my God.
okay, so you have that much as your book value, as the amount that's been invested in this building. When you find out that of what the actual market value is, you have, which is, you know, when we advertised it for sale for zero, then you have to write down, you know, that as a, do you consider that an
Yeah, well, I
expense?
think we
This
should-
is the county's.
We should value some of the buildings in the negative, way in the negative.
Well, you can't go below zero.
Yeah.
No, I know, but in reality.
Right, but you can't go below zero.
So anyway, that's what you see.
But from a buyer standpoint,
There's a lot of
you
money
gotta
going.
look at, this is minus so many dollars. And just to bring it up to breaking even, I gotta put $80,000.
Sure. So
That's reality, right?
Yeah,
That's reality.
Bookkeeping.
right, but anyway, so in terms of bookkeeping, that's what those big numbers are. To me, this says, it's very important that, this to me says, this is why ordinance enforcement is important, because when you don't take care of your building and it falls on public shoulders, that's the money you end up investing when somebody doesn't do what they're supposed to take care of their property. Anyway,
But you don't have to accept buildings, because they will come to us as they have at the council, and they'll say, do you want this property in? And the villages will all say, no, because then you're stuck with this piece of property.
correct, and the
So
other.
Don't say yes to these things.
Well, the other answer, the other side of that is if you don't take care of them and then they just fall down, and who's then what?
It looks like.
It looks like-
Aleppo, Syria.
Yeah, that's what
Rubble.
it's, right. Okay. So transfers, debt service, Fifth Street bonds, that's done.
What is, oh, so we're done with that? What is
Fifth
that?
Street bond,
That's the-
bricks,
Like bricks.
So that's, we have nothing?
that's done. So, loader grader payment,
Okay, how much longer will that go on, just wondering?
9 years. Or
I
8
think
years
on the
beyond.
lower, yeah, it's 8,
And, oh, 8, and then, just wondering, who pays for that, just us or the
yeah. No, the
village?
village pays about 40% of it.
So
Okay.
we get 60, okay.
All right, and then, major local, so that's snow removal, basically.
Okay,
That's
the
transfer.
major street, so again, that's not necessarily the DDA district. Is it somehow valued at 60/40, since the DDA district is about 60% of
I-
the village, or is it just?
I think it's, I don't know, but it goes to that fund. I think what would be a good idea, and what I can do is work with Dave and Steve or Joe, whoever, and find out what the total cost of snow removal is in our DDA district. And we might find out that contributing 10 or 20 grand to that is not really that much. Or, I don't know, but we can find out what that is, and we can
You're gonna be
understand.
shocked, because right now there's probably about, because they have the private snow contracts that take away snow, like from parking lots and stuff. So just those, maybe there's 9 of them, because there's a couple that are up on Pine Street. That's like, $35,000. So I think
Yeah.
you'd be shocked to see how much it costs for the whole village. It's hundreds of
Thousands of dollars, right.
And they don't take away snow anywhere else besides downtown.
So I
You're gonna be-
don't disagree with you, I just think it's good that all of us understand what those numbers are.
And Steve has done, I believe, a couple years ago, an analysis of what it costs to haul versus what it costs to just plow the sides. So if we can get that numbers, that'll show to you that it's.
I mean, I just think it could be a good thing for us to just have a handle on and understand what that is, and it's.
While we're talking about that, can I just ask what's going on with the alley thing here and, the Ash Lane? Is that
I
something?
have no idea on that,
I have an
honestly.
idea. Jim
But-
Tertia has, can I ask you a question?
I would say, do we need to discuss this right now? You two can talk
We can do
after,
it at
I
the
think.
meeting if you want.
'Cause yeah, I think we should finish moving
Well,
through our
it's-
budget. 'Cause
It's in the DDA district, so I'm just wondering, if it's a major fire lane, if it's a health and safety issue, should the DDA be paying for that or helping pay for that? That's what I would, is it a fire lane? That's what I need to know.
Okay, then if you're gonna call a fire lane, you've gotta call between 6th and 7th Street a fire lane. You've gotta,
These are two major commercial.
I'm just telling you, it's been determined by our attorney that, and it's gonna happen at the next meeting, because of the cost and because the water company did not know that they were the only one in that alley paying for snow removal, and it cost almost $19,000 to just plow and remove snow. Remove snow is the biggest thing. Jim Church at the last meeting, and we agreed with him. The guy that owns the Aslan building, he did not want to pay $2,400 because we were taking his snow away for free. The water company was paying $1,200 towards it. So what's going to happen at the meeting is Mr. Church had told that Mr. Moss, I think his name is, we're willing to go, your square feet is going to cost $2,400 to plow and take your snow away. If you don't want to pay it, you've got to come up with talking to other people that are on the alley, and if there's not another $2,400 in the pot with the $4,000, because the water company has agreed to pay $4,000, the alley's done. It's
Okay,
gonna
how
be private.
about back at the.
They're gonna always do here
Why?
into the private lot,
Why?
because we own this.
So us taxpayers are paying for that part.
You have to, if you have a public building, you can plow it, okay?
With taxpayers' money.
What I'm telling, well, that's what it's for, okay? We're doing the sidewalks and taking snow away. Why are we doing that and they're not taking the snow away by my place? I pay taxes too.
If they don't plow up the bridge, where's waste, what is waste management?
Okay, well,
Are they gonna move the dumpsters out?
I'm
of the
just,
sidewalk?
I'm just telling you, this is not a road that they have to do, it's an
I know,
alley,
but where are
okay?
they gonna
I don't
put the
know.
dumpsters? The village is
What are the-
responsible for
okay.
having them somewhere.
Okay, well, let me ask you this, what do the people do that are across the street here? They don't have an alley plowed and they have tall
I
buildings.
don't know, but there's dumpsters
I'm
back
just-
there.
I'm
I'm just
just
telling you,
saying.
is the village?
Well,
gonna
then
put
people
them
have to be responsible to pay because the village cannot lose money.
Okay, so anybody who's, to the private, whatever private lot you're talking about, plow to the private lot, does that mean anybody along this lane gets a free, that up to where you guys are?
It's
parking?
gonna, according to what I understand, is they're gonna plow here. The village owns the lot next door where they have the farmer's market, and they're just gonna go right in there, and that's
Put
gonna
it
be
in
the end of it.
into that part.
So does anybody on the other side of that have to pay, or just they get it figured out?
Well, they've been trying to get other people to pay, but people have refused. They say, we're not gonna do it. So what do, Lori? Do you
Well,
just
maybe
keep
everybody
losing?
should have to.
Okay, well, then if you're gonna do it for one alley here, then we're gonna have to do it for every other alley,
Well,
because they have tall
What
buildings.
I'm saying is if you're charging certain people to pay, but you're not, you decide that other people don't have to pay.
We've never
It doesn't
decided
seem
that.
fair.
Whoever, well,
All right, ladies, I think we
Okay,
need to move
I mean,
on. This is why I
it's
didn't want to
gonna be what
discuss
it's
this
gonna
right
be,
now.
okay?
Yeah, we heard this the other night.
It is in the DDA district, so I just wanted
We
to.
got.
And we can
So what's the
discuss
next
that
block?
further
The
if
next
we
block,
need to do,
so-
if we need to do some, if that's something that this group would like to include, when we do some planning, if we say, hey, we want to help pay for alley plowing, that's something we can discuss, but let's discuss it there. So we, I mean, we shouldn't have to take an hour to walk through this here. Okay, so, HDC committee, $1,500, that's to pay their administrator to set up meetings and do their notes and.
Who's their administrator?
Is the village helping?
It was John Arnold,
Is the
No,
village?
the other half comes from the national park.
Oh, so the village doesn't pay for that.
so it was John Arnold, and John Arnold is transitioning out, he's working for, anyway, it doesn't matter, he has a replacement
We're gonna have
that
to-
is selected.
Yeah, but we have to advertise.
Right, so, okay, and then moving on to expenditures, we don't have anything for public improvement allowed. Grant funds, we don't have anything there. So that rolls our total expenditures into about 72,000, which the 20,000 we probably will not spend from the stabilization, the amount that we've allotted there, we pledged that amount, we're probably not gonna spend that. So we are looking at this like we're over budget, but we do also have some money, you know, surplus because we didn't spend it all in past years. So there is we have some cushion there. But we are gonna have to adapt to that lower revenue. So,
What do you mean lower revenue from?
so I don't think you were here yet. So if you look up here in revenues, so, you know, we get our money from the tax increment funding. So you'll see right here, and look at this number and this number. So you see that drop?
Yeah, why?
So one thing, we were overcharging the county $4,000. So then you're gonna see a drop of $8,000 because we owed them money, plus we were getting less revenue. And then, and then, since Louis left, and we have, you know, that change there, they don't,
Family Dollar pay taxes?
they
Yeah,
do.
but it's apparently the valuation is a lot
Right.
more than Louis was.
And I'll tell you,
Interesting.
I went to the Sioux and met the DDA guy there, and he's also the head of their thing is together, they have a Main Street program and DDA together. After he came, he's been there 6 years, and I think he said after like 2 years or something, they got a new assessor in the county. The guy came through and reassessed all the properties in the downtown, and they lost hundreds of thousands of dollars of value in their entire district, so their budget, I mean, about disappeared. So it happens, it's not, you know, that's what happens.
That's what might happen in here.
What'll happen with Calumet machine is they keep moving stuff up to their new bill. I mean, that's
Right.
gonna be a lot of.
And that was the other thing, yeah. So,
Machine hasn't.
Well, they
Well, they
moved
move
the building
equipment.
over by Ninth Street, so that's gonna take a lot of money.
Which mean the big one?
The Canyon one,
Kenny,
they
the
bought
big
from
one.
Motley.
Oh, that's right on Pine and Mine?
So that might be personal property, so it might not
Yeah.
affect
right.
the valuation.
So anyway, I would need a motion to accept this budget for the 2019 budget year.
Should we do it without 18? Should we do it without 18 appearing there? To see what the expenditures were?
But we do need to,
We should adopt a budget for 2019. I mean, again, you can amend it next month.
Right.
uh,
which is fair enough, and we need to,
And I'm sorry.
with these
Just
changes.
random.
So do I have a motion to accept this budget with the amendments we mentioned for the 2019 fiscal year?
I will so move.
Is there a second?
All second.
All in favor?
I think our voice.
Oh, you're right, this is expenditures. Verge?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
Mike? Tom?
Yes.
Lori? Leah? Yes. Okay, moving on, facade grant application. So the facade
I
grant.
still didn't make a comment on this, I'm sorry.
Okay, so we're gonna be looking for more edits on that application, and, we'll move forward with that. Agnes block, updates there. Anybody, Tom? anything to
I
report?
I haven't been in contact with Jeery, and they, like I said, they did come to town to look at buildings for a possible construction skills training center.
Okay,
And they were looking more at the Kennedy building, but I think once they see the roof, they're going to change their mind.
sure, but you haven't heard anything
But I
back from them
haven't,
lately?
followed up.
Okay.
to tell you the truth.
Was it said at this meeting or the other meeting that there was somebody that was gonna be
It was-
going in there?
That was the other meeting, but that's again, Jeff Ratcliffe from PETA is working with someone
Okay.
that was interested in the A and spot. However, it was very early, and
Didn't wanna share.
well, he's not gonna tell us who, and it is confidential. But from my conversation with him, that very well might not happen. It's really, you work with somebody, you try and work the monies together.
With the guys.
Right,
And,
yeah,
I think they don't need that much of a building, and they're trying to figure out a lot of structural things, because
Sure.
they need a big structure to,
handle what they've got going on.
yeah.
Sure, so that's, anyway, a tiny little nibble there, but doesn't sound like anything. 512 Portland, I talked to Jeff yesterday, Radcliffe, he did a walkthrough of the property, with one of the guys from Robert E. Johnson, I think it was one of his sons, anyway. He said things are looking good. He did go in the attic, there's a vent that was open up there, and pigeons were getting in. So he didn't see any pigeons in there, but he used a screw gun and he closed it. He said it's not great, but it's closed, they shouldn't be able to get in. It was in the attic, I don't know. But he said we really need to think about, I think Rick or Mike suggested in a previous meeting, just boarding the whole thing up, as far as the windows and stuff, to get it closed up and really make sure that we don't have pigeons coming in. And he said the other issue with that vent was, of course, snow is blowing in there. So it's not like the whole thing was full of snow, but in front of the vent, you have a few inches of snow. You can kind of picture how that would look, I think. So we want to make sure that we're not getting, a lot of moisture. The only good thing is it's so, how dry it is in the winter. When that goes, well, of course, it might not melt, and then it'll just be. But
it'll evaporate.
right, it's not a foot of snow across the roof.
Without paint on the outside, it doesn't have that much of a curve appeal.
Yeah, and the
Still.
darkness on the inside makes it difficult to
Right,
show.
right. I totally hear you. So I don't know whether we want to, and I know we had this discussion before, do we want to board it all up and then have the issue of you walk in there and you can't see anything? Or do we we need to be really vigilant about, if a kid throws a rock or whatever, we don't want pigeons in there.
I think if a person went in there, they could usually if they're looking at old buildings, they can kind of say, well, the floors, I'll sand them and finishing them, it'll be beautiful. Walls, I'll spray.
So are you thinking we don't need light necessarily?
But
or
on
you
the outside,
Oh,
the outside,
it's hideous.
I think it's one of the ugliest buildings in town.
It is better than it was. And it is better than it was, actually.
But I don't know if it costs less to do what we did to fix it up or to tear it down, but.
Well, I don't think we're gonna tear it down
No,
now.
I know, not now, because they made that decision.
Right.
I think it was kind of probably a even Steven sort of a thing.
Right,
between the
well-
two.
So, moving forward,
Yeah.
Well, isn't there one, at least one window that faces the gas station? Isn't there a picture window there?
I don't know.
It's not a historic window, it's like.
No,
something-
no, I
it's
mean-
not. The question is, do we wanna board it up or not? That's the question. It's that simple.
That's a huge window, it could be boarded up with large sheets of plywood if it got broken. Right now, it is.
Okay, so we'd like to just leave it open, is what it is.
I'm not gonna sweat that, that's the only thing we.
Okay, so for right now, we choose to leave it as it is. If we see any changes, broken glass or whatever, we'll
Yeah, I don't think
address
that
that.
picture window's gonna be broken, but any other windows should be boarded if they need to be, I think.
That means if they're broken, then we board it up. Okay, fine.
And unrelated, when are we going to consider relisting these buildings? Because currently, 512 Portland, we took it off,
Right.
so next month.
Is there still work going on there?
No.
It's just.
It's all done. Johnson.
So there is not a cap, and there needs to be a concrete cap installed somewhere in there, and I'm not the building guy, I just know
By
that.
January, February, I mean, we need to consider this.
Okay, and we can talk about that, and I think before we relist those buildings, we need to have a plan in place for what we're requiring of people to buy that building. So that we don't list it and then someone comes in and then we say, oh, I don't know, and we're all up in a, we need to decide what we want. Okay, do we require them to work with the small business development company? We want a business plan, we want this, it's gonna be approved by, I had offers from, Brian Donnelly, he was with River Valley for a long time now, he's with Superior National Bank. He said he would not sit on our board, he doesn't want to come to a meeting because he has too many meetings, but he said he would be more than happy to review business plans for us, anything like that. And I think that would be a good idea, is to say, okay, you're going to work with this person and this person. If you want this building and you want us to give it to you for $5,000 or nothing or whatever, this is what we require. Because, and I know it seems a little bit onerous on that person, but when we look back at this $90,000 that's invested, we need to make sure that what we get, that building is going to be, that's a move forward. It needs to move forward.
Okay, I have a question, how do you enforce that, because it hasn't been the case, like, I'll give you an example, the Payne Weber building, that was supposed to have certain things, and it just didn't happen, it wasn't enforced.
Decided that it shouldn't have any conditions, just as other properties that have been.
But you did have a condition that you would give $5,000 back after a certain.
But the lawyer, I think the way.
But you did give it back.
Getting everything.
But you did give the money back, right, the $5,000, so that was a condition.
I don't think you got that back.
Okay, so it sounds like there's
Yeah.
something.
The provision was if he produced receipts showing he had spent a certain amount of money.
Right, but
So
nobody
again,
knows
so
that. It's
So
just
we couldn't have-
enforceable, I'm just
We
telling you,
could
it's
have
a
a
problem.
problem limit, so we could still owe him money when he comes through, right?
Well, I think we should talk to him maybe.
So anyways, I'll look, I
Because
don't
Jim
know.
said we couldn't have it time, because
Well-
the village.
But you're talking about having conditions on these other ones, and that might be the same
He
problem.
told us we couldn't enforce it.
So I think what we
Okay,
need
well
to,
then-
this is part of
So
what
that's a
we
bill
need.
we probably still have coming in from jail.
But are we gonna be able to enforce the other conditions if we on these other two buildings? Probably not too, so.
So what I think we need to do is, when we go forward and we wanna sell these buildings, that's a discussion we need to have with Mr. Tersha, whoever else, so that we know what we're getting into, what things are gonna work for us to be enforceable,
Both-
what aren't, and how we follow up.
Both
That's-
Jeff Radcliffe and Scott McGinnis seem to think that there were things that could be done, but that's something to be saved for when we have that meeting with them.
Exactly.
There is something called a,
Right, right.
There-
That's,
There's some different
that's,
tools
that's,
we can use.
so
well, we
that's,
can take care of that then.
And that's one of those things where we need to have a couple people go down that road and then bring it to the rest of us.
so I think we should wait to list it until we have.
Agreed. I agree with that. Evergreen, I have no update there, I don't know if anybody else. Okay, so let's take a peek at our bills.
Yeah, I was looking with the bills. We got a couple of sidewalk removal, snow removal, to the DDA. And I just want to remind us that, this was brought up before, last year, I believe, it looks to me like this one bill for like $700 something.
I don't have that one.
It's in there. Well, I'm assuming that the
Okay, yeah.
$220 is for the
Agnes.
You want me to ask,
The $710, I think, is for removal of 142 feet of sidewalk. It doesn't even say the building, but I'm assuming
it's a Portland.
Okay, so this is what the village did last year for sidewalk removal, maybe not 17, but this was 16.
But it's not always like that.
No, this is what it was like in the
just
spring. There was no sidewalk and snow removal.
So I agree with Lori on this, if the work isn't being done, we shouldn't have to pay for it. I drove by that building this morning, it looks great this morning. So it is being done now.
But I think it's being pushed, and
No,
so.
you gotta look at it, because it's like all the way,
We decided
it's not.
to, we had a lower rate, they weren't doing it, now they said they are doing it.
Okay, well, all I'm saying, do we
want to have snow removal or not?
snow removal that, or?
It's an ordinance, you have
Okay,
a
so then,
choice.
so there we go, so we pay
If
it.
the village is double dipping, they're charging us and then they're not removing the snow.
But they are.
now.
They are.
The other day they weren't, they were.
You
it was
gotta
pushed
remember
up
what's
against-
going on. We have one full-time guy, the other guy is out on sick. So now we don't have anybody besides Steve Callow and his awesome guys.
Yeah.
If we don't do it, come up in January and tell us we're not doing it.
I know
Because
exactly.
I know,
what
I
you
mean,
mean.
there was.
They weren't
I-
removing it last year.
I don't disagree with you.
So I mean, why are we paying for it?
Well, it's not all the time, though.
But this was what it was like, I
know,
know,
but
that
we
obviously
still do it
was not
3 to 4
removed.
weeks,
Yeah, I
right?
mean,
For
they'll do
months.
it as they have
So,
time. I mean, you
it's-
I
know,
know,
you
but
do
if they
it.
say they're gonna do it, first it has to be done, if they're charging, it's gotta be done,
This
right?
was in the
If
spring,
you,
this was
if
not
you
one.
come back next month and
We're-
say.
if
we're
I'm
not
not
doing it,
gonna argue,
you're
I'm not
right.
gonna argue this, there's nothing that says they have to do
But
it
that-
5
you're
days.
right, and I think we pay,
That's all
I
I'm
don't know.
saying. That's what
It
was
doesn't in the
recommended.
ordinance.
No, no, I
It is,
remember.
the only thing that was
I
brought up
remember.
in the ordinances was an average, if they did it 3 to 4 times a week, if they did it 3 times a week, if they did it 5
Once a
days.
year, but what is?
You gotta, okay, instead of complaining, you
Let's
gotta talk to
move
Steve
on
Kelly.
this, guys. Hey, enough, guys. Later, if you wanna argue.
But there's no arguing, there's just comments.
November bills, or actually October, we're approving, look at October, October 17, we're gonna need to vote on these, and voice vote.
What else is, I just didn't, yeah.
Well, we approved October.
We approved them, but we
November,
didn't do a voice
we're not doing
vote.
voice vote.
We need to
Oh,
do
this
a
is
roll
the
call
October.
vote, because I did that wrong.
Right.
So in November, you approved for October, you're looking at the month that's happened.
So the only thing is Jackie Alpha was not an audit, it was a review, so it's, yeah, so that's one thing right there.
So this, October bills have already been reviewed and voted on, but
Right.
you need
We
to
need to
replace
do-
that with a voice vote.
Correct. Okay, are we ready to do that, folks?
Can I just ask, okay, so this transfer to general fund, the meter reimbursement, this is from October, but going forward, you know, are you gonna look into?
Dave is gonna look
where
at
it goes, not to the
Correct.
general fund?
Correct. But for, you're gonna look at October, and we're gonna look at November today as well, so those two slates of bills are gonna go where they're gonna go, and we're gonna work on that moving forward, okay? All right, so, let's have a voice vote on this. Verge,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
you're Pete. Lori,
And I'm-
Dave, Leah, yes, okay, all right. November, can I sneak a peek at yours here, Josh, there? Okay, do we want to go through these line by line? Transfer to debt service fund, greater voter payment. Nope,
This is
wrong
one.
one. You're good. November. There you go. Okay, so debt service fund, that's our greater voter payment. Payroll fund, that's our administrator. Deposit Fulton County. So I'm assuming that delinquent taxes is what we,
Those are funds coming
okay, and then the stabilization grant, that's went to the Curto building, that 19,000. 5,000, that's the check from River Valley Bank, which actually came to Main Street, and then I wrote a check to the DDA, so that's that $5,000. Okay, and then 23,000, that's, do you see the money coming in for the Curto and then going out to the Curto? Our power bill, I'm assuming that's Agnes, and then transfer to general fund to 600 for the meters. So we're gonna make sure, again, that gets we're gonna figure out where that's going and how we're gonna allot that. All right. Do I have a motion to approve the bills?
I'll make the motion.
And a second?
Are you including these with the bills?
Yes.
The,
These will be,
next month.
yes,
Okay.
okay. I'm sorry. Okay, and then let's have a roll call vote. Verge?
Yes.
Rick, Mike?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Pete, you got
Yes.
Lori? Dave? Yes.
You know, just, I didn't know, in October, who made the motion to approve the October bills? I didn't write that down.
Oh, we did it incorrectly
I
again.
need to do it again.
Let's do it again. I'll get this right, folks. Do I have a motion to approve the October bills?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Okay, and then a roll call vote.
Yes.
Verge? Rick?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Pete?
Yes.
Lori?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Leah? Hallelujah.
Can I just make one suggestion here? Because of the way they're doing the billing in the office, if these aren't paid by December 15th, we're going to get a 1.5% fee charge. Are you guys good with that, getting 1.5%?
I think that
I'm just, okay,
there's an issue here.
okay, I have a one-lane road a lot of times, but I give the guys a pass because I know they're busy. You can't complain about everything. They're doing the best they can.
Well, the question is are they cleaning the sidewalks this year?
That is the
They're
question.
pushing it.
And
You
then,
know, I think,
You know,
when you say pushing it, what do you mean pushing it?
Well, you know, when I.
in the
This
past,
is not
they
on
just,
snowfall. This
I
is
mean,
not- this is all
I will go and look at that corner and see
Yeah,
if the
well,
sidewalk is clear.
I can tell you
And
right
I
now,
will make-
it's clear. It is
Both
been done.
sides.
Both sides, it looks great. Yes,
And
it is
that's the
done.
thing, is if you see that it is not being done, we need to know. Because you don't even have to talk to Steve, just let
And
somebody
do
here know.
we need that done? I mean, do we?
Well, as Bert said, the ordinance requires it.
Yeah, it requires it, so, I mean, like it or not, it requires it, but I don't wanna get a 1.5%
It's better to have
fee.
it done or even not.
It does look better done, I agree.
I never, then they should really actually do it, because how many years
Do I have a
have
motion
we
to adjourn?
been charged for something they haven't been doing?
I will move that we
Well,
adjourn.
the bill.
And second.
Sorry?
Okay.
So are you good with getting the 1.5% fee,
Mike?
is my
This
question.
will be my last meeting.
Okay. Well, thanks for your service. Okay. There's a motion on the floor.
Well, no, that's, yeah, because he just,
Okay,
so now I will move that we adjourn.
And a second.
I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor? Any opposed? We are adjourned at 9:09. See you folks next month, 9 o'clock.
We miss you, Mike.
Yeah.
No, we usually post it in the village hall, so we'll have to do that.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I guess this concludes the meeting of the Downtown Do It For Ourselves Club.
Yeah, or if there's something left over, not really over. Sidewalks are important,
No, I agree. And they are, I mean, they are complex. so.
but it shouldn't be.
But since
long
we're
for
adjourned, we
this
shouldn't,
one.
we shouldn't be discussing that. We're adjourned.
Well, so are you gonna just do it then?